What's going on? Boys, thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind the scenes stuff, arm yourselves, life stuff. Something's been bugging me for a couple months now. I spend a lot of time around women in professional settings. Women who are smart, accomplished, and look good, and most of the time I'm not super affected by them. But when I run into an extremely attractive woman outside a professional setting and disregarding any accomplishments she may or may not have, I freeze up and I feel intimidated. Why is that? Because again, this usually doesn't happen in professional settings. So it can't be as simple as feeling intimidated by attractiveness. What's going on here? Well, as it turns out, it is feeling intimidated by attractiveness, but for more reasons than I realized initially. First, a very attractive woman holds a lot of power, social power. One of St. O'Neill's lines was, or is, she is as good looking as you are famous. So, on a basic level, it's intimidation in the face of beauty, but more in the face of power afforded by beauty. As a dude, you need to be otherworldly in terms of accomplishment or charisma or wealth. And I hesitate to add wealth because in the power game, wealth is important, but to me it always seems like a secondary thing. It should be more like a ruler or a measuring stick rather than a quality in and of itself. A measuring stick that measures your other qualities and at a glance communicates them. Anyway, you need to be a dangerous dude to keep social control of a room when there is an extremely attractive woman around. She can take control of a room without saying anything, without doing anything other than existing in this room. And people are power, so for a person to take all of that power from you by existing is intimidating. The possibility of it, the fact of it, is intimidating. But again, you don't get this in professional settings, usually. Why is that? Well, with a lot of women around, there will always be an element of that. But first, they will be competing against one another. No pressure or heat on you. And then also, maybe some businesswoman psychology. I think when you're doing professional, especially as a woman around lots of other women, women are unbelievably competitive. Here, professionalism is the arena we have decided to compete within. So, although there is an element of that beautiful and sexual power at play, I think when you're performing professional, their goal is to decapitate one another via professionalism. In other words, they aren't trying to out sexy one another, they are trying to out business one another. And that's a separate thing we'll need to think about more because I don't think this is the way dudes compete. When dudes are competing, it's not like little separate arenas, it's one big arena, and everyone is using everything all at once. That's why if a dude walks into a business setting looking jacked up, looking swole, looking big, all the dudes will go, fuck, John outdid us here. That son of a bitch. Versus when a woman walks into a business situation among a bunch of women looking more sexed up than usual, it's a problem. And I don't know how to word this, but instead of accepting the play and then entering the planning yours phase, women will go into undermine mode because looking that good is power, but you've broken the Geneva Conventions of office bitches. Now, the way this tangent ties into feeling intimidated by a gorgeous woman on the street. Looking that good gives you social power, and you know it. I don't think dudes appreciate the amount of work and detail it takes to look that good. Nobody looks that good by accident. And women especially are aware of how powerful gorgeousness makes you because they have cold wars about it. So, what does this tell you about the woman on the street? She's aware of the power and she has taken steps to get it. This is not a self esteem thing. This is not a looking attractive to whoever you want to look attractive to, at least in the finding or attracting a partner sense. This is about power first. And that leads into another pattern with very attractive women like this. Ones who have put in the work to get the power. They've achieved it so they can use it. Maybe not necessarily maliciously, but power is intoxicating. It's hard to let go of feeling like you control a room once you know what it feels like to control a room and realize it's within your grasp to control every room you enter. That's probably where this competitive woman shit comes from. You can look at men as if we are competitive by nature, but always in competition. I don't necessarily think that's the case. Competition might be inevitable, but men are territorial, and when we have our territory, it's like a dice roll to see if we feel compelled to go out and start shit. Otherwise, we can be in our zone and be fine. We can even be among other men and be fine. As long as our territory, however you want to define it, it's not necessarily literal territory, but once we've established understandings, we can be around each other most of the time and be fine. Versus women who are playing with nuclear energy at all times. I imagine there's a greater awareness of the power of beauty and sensitivity to it among women. Hence the weird behaviors about competition and also whenever an attractive woman rolls around. But back to the attractive woman, because she's the only one worth paying attention to. That's men's part in this problem, by the way. Most of the time, women who are able to control rooms with their looks don't stop at just enjoying the sensation of sitting on the throne. You ever noticed the way very attractive women are pushy and don't shut their mouths and start shit? Unattractive women do that too, but they are incapable of the intensity because they lack that power. Very attractive women seem to like getting to feel validated on many different fronts based on their beauty. Now, this can take any number of forms, but the core maneuver is something Saint O'Neill geniusly called pushing. I'm guessing it comes from the insecurity of knowing on some level where all of this different validation is coming from. It's really coming from one source. Really, you're being validated only in one way. So you push. You ignore the context of a situation, you ignore the flow of conversation, and you just say things or do things. What's happening here is complicated. First, I think you're still hunting validation, but you're going overboard a bit to see if people will continue to validate you. So, in that way, it's not just seeking alternate but true validation, it's also a test of your own power. Example: are you smart enough by saying this dumb political shit to be validated for your intelligence while your beauty is right in front of people? Or are you so beautiful, people will validate you anyway, even though that's some stupid shit, which, in either case, that is affirming, ego affirming, in the you have an identity way. I also think women who push like this are also on some level trying to start shit, trying to get a disagreement. So, socially, they can throw someone on the ground and kick their ribs in. It really is like some silverback gorilla shit. This is the woman version of the dominance display. You get to say whatever you want, and if anyone has a problem with it, then they will get fucked up. You are that good looking. Because I think once a woman who has the potential to be very attractive elevates herself into that very attractive space, everything becomes dominance and display. But the possibilities and boundaries are unclear, they're fuzzy, because all that power is based on other people. Hence the testing, finding the boundaries, measuring your power the way a dude might measure plates or something. Because while men do have social power and social capability, it's totally different, and it isn't on a clock, which is another thing. I know the popular thing is for women to act like you can stay beautiful into your old age. I think you can look good into your old age, but you won't be starstruck sexy. And your 40s for women are fucking brutal. Some women can turn back around and get some of that sexuality back in their 50s, but Jesus, in my experience, a woman's 40s are brutal. So with very attractiveness, it's an unclear power built on unstable, deteriorating footing. It reminds me of the justification in Warhammer Fantasy for human wizards and elven wizards being able to operate, at least in games, at the same level. Elves have a long time to develop their magical power. They don't need to take risks because they live forever or live a long time. Humans can compete with elves only because they do take risks. They are mortal. They're on a brief clock, so they'll do anything and everything they can to achieve that power. So, although the methods and maybe individual to individual balance is imbalanced, overall a balance is achieved. That's a bit how I view men and women in their social power. As long as a dude continues to work on his aura and his ability to do things, he'll get more attractive over time. And if he takes care of himself physically and gets a bit lucky genetically, some dudes can look good up into their early 70s. That's why when you meet a man in his early 70s or late 60s or something who, as a dude, looks to you like a ball sack or something, but you can smell his attractiveness or what woman sense would find attractive. Jeffrey Gurian was a great example. As a man, if you can get past the social shit, the social pressure, and the games, you can take a breather and relax. As long as you're consistent, your power will come. versus women who get the throne early, but with none of the outlines clear and with time ticking, it makes them erratic. But while we're here, one thing to say about all this, or about women who have achieved that status, achieved very attractiveness, and managed to figure it out, as they get older, they develop into that madam archetype, which, as a people enjoyer, even though I hate them, is one of my favorites. That person is one of my favorite sorts of people. Women who took the throne, figured it out, and then transitioned into being knowledgeable, wise advisors gracefully. I'm not talking about the woman who's 60 trying to be sexy. That's an embarrassment. I'm talking about the woman who's 60 but was sexy and knows how to play those games well. Top tier advisors. And I haven't watched Game of Thrones or read Game of Thrones, but I watch clips a lot. Lady Olenna comes to mind. In my opinion, that's how a woman stays powerful as she gets older in these social games. She's the wise, cunning shadow. The point of all of this is to say, when you feel intimidated by a very attractive woman on the street, you have reason to on a number of levels. One, she has power, she does have power that should intimidate you just by merit of it existing. And then further, women who put themselves in this position because it takes work, they come with sets of traits that can make your life very difficult. She can, in fact, brutalize you. And odds are, whether she realizes on a conscious level this is what she's doing or not, she is looking for an opportunity to test her own boundaries or limitations. It's all rolling dice, and if the dice lands on fuck somebody up, and then the other dice lands on you, she's got your ass. Unless you know how to combat that. And that's one of my favorite things about Patrice's Black Phillip show. Patrice was way high up on the mountain. And in the honest way. Jeffrey fucking Gurian was just as high up on the mountain, but he wasn't doing it in a fighting way. He was doing it's judo, right? Where you throw people around, use their force against them. That's what he was, that's what that motherfucker was doing. Oh boy, that bastard. Well, there are multiple ways to defeat an enemy. What a line. That son of a bitch. I think he's still alive. But Patrice was way high up, and he was as high as he was via the open, honest combat method. And I love that, not only because of the honesty and because of the wisdom you learn just by witnessing him do his thing, but also because he, with some of those women he would interact with, he was not a clear victor or master at all times. Not even close. They're doing dumb, shitty things, and they're so angry they probably don't realize what they're doing, and that should make it easier to deal with, because an angry opponent is a not thinking clearly, not looking where they step opponent. But they are so gorgeous and so angry. Patrice was still put on his back foot a few times. And even in situations in which Patrice would win, those wins didn't feel like clean wins. As in, he won, but he pulled some pocket sand shit. I saw that. And, oh god, was it Pamela Page just made Dante lose it? She beat him by being angry and shitty and passive-aggressive, and most importantly, gorgeous. Because if they looked ugly, they wouldn't even have a seat at the table. In other words, you, stupid, should be intimidated, and tread carefully. That's why I like having women around me. You're my deterrent. And that is cowardly, that is hiding, but that's life. It's crazy shit. And that's why the title of the video is what it is. Nothing is ever just anything. Not things you see, and certainly not the way you feel about them. Everything needs to be investigated. There is always some bullshit afoot. And while we're talking about attractive women, I will say one other thing, go into one concluding, not necessarily related tangent. ENTJ women are great. At least when they are too socially inept to fall into the pushing trap. Because I've noticed something about ENTJ women, including ENTJ women who are, no offense, at base unattractive. It seems like all of them are aware, hyper aware of the beauty power thing. So even unattractive ENTJ women put in the work to do those attractiveness things. And to their credit, and this is one of the reasons it's a lot of work, you can pull off shit that, no offense, normal base level you, no Super Saiyan or whatever, people would think you wouldn't be able to. But they do it because of the social power it affords them. They seem highly conscious of that. That's also why they do all the other shit they do. They're going for the high score, but they're also socially and emotionally fucking stupid. You'll meet a great many ENTJ women who, past a point in their lives, have a hard time finding and maintaining relationships, despite being high achievement and good looking. Why is that? It's because in pursuit of high scores, they seem to fail to understand the nuanced consequences of score maxing in that way. And that's why ENTJ women, I like them all, but they're either the most unstable psychos on the planet, or they're the highest tier wife material on the planet. Because in their pursuit of accomplishment or capability, they make themselves unapproachable. You look too good. You make too much money. You know too much about too many things. Or in all these cases, and in all other things, at least you try to. And for Joe Dipshit, who can't tell the difference, ENTJ women can at least sell the idea enough to make themselves unapproachable or intimidating anyway. And that's where the divide comes from. I think some lower stock ENTJ women cheat their way into these positions. They get better at the selling than they do at the actual achieving, which in most situations will be fine because integrity doesn't matter in the world. If you're a really good liar or a really good salesman, you'll do just fine, maybe even better. But in more nuanced situations, these ENTJ women are insane. It's like they're actual little demiurges. They have almost total power over this pocket dimension, but by merit of what they are, they also have almost no self-concept, so they're starting shit every second. As in, the demiurge creates people so it can know itself in another, but it's another it has total control over. They are powerful enough until not even challenged by reality, but stepped on by reality. They can do just about anything, and they get away with it. these are the ones who are not worth dealing with. But then you have the other camp, ENTJ women who did put in the reps, did chase the high score, did become attractive, did become successful, and then have almost no idea why they are alone. And I found there's an element of misandry in these ENTJ women. And I think it's because they're looking for reasons they're alone. To their eyes, according to their cognition, they have done everything right. They should be the hottest commodity. And they are, but they don't realize, again, the effect they have on people. How intimidating they are to Joe Dipshit. It's not just the matter of the dude feeling unequal, which he does, and it doesn't matter if you think that's not a problem. It is a problem, but because it's in a nuanced sphere you don't understand, you'll either ignore it and continue to do what you've always been doing while being alone terminally and probably developing a bit of that misandry, or you'll go in the complete opposite direction and start making all of the moves for the dude and then either scaring them off, one, or two, getting with a bum dude who leeches the soul out of you because at this point, that's all you feel you deserve or you're worth. And that's a terrible state of affairs for high-performing ENTJ women, and I don't know how to fix it. And I don't really care to, because that's my demographic. That's the promised land. Like when Patrice was talking about going to Brazil and it just being a completely different world. These pools of ENTJ women are a cognitive, completely different world. They're so goofy. And the reason I'm telling you all this is not to be too freaked out at the nuclear weapons of gorgeousness some women arm themselves with. I'm sure there are these patterns in other types or other pairings. Patrice O'Neill and Mark Maron. The difference between fishing for sport and fishing to live. You can do both, and frankly, that might be one of the only primary uses for the tool typology is there is. Typology helps in a ton of different ways, but rarely can you straight apply typology alone to a situation and get results. But here, and this isn't to say you don't need other skills, but finding these cognitive demographics is something you would have a hard time doing without typology. Some people can, of course, and you still need, well, whether you're a man or a woman, you need your game, but you can find exactly what you're looking for. If you're willing to do the LiDAR bullshit work to scan out these cognitive pools and find the people you're looking for. Okay, I think that wraps it all up. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.